Welcome back, audience. Hope you're doing good. In this video, I want to talk about Christ versus Antichrist. It seems to be popping up in the public awareness. This question, what is Christ versus Antichrist? And there's a lot of attempts to put the fingers on it, but I don't see that they do. And so I just want to make this little video for these whoever is watching it to see what it really is and how it operates and how to distinguish that. First of all, I want to start with something that is relatable. And I want to use physics and metaphysics to kind of describe this thing. And of course, I don't have any diagrams or anything. These are just words, but use your imagination as I'm describing. Now, let's start with the heart. And not to say something that is ambiguous, I'm going to use something that is relatable. What is the heart? Every single person may have a motive or inspiration. All motives are a type of belief system in motion, and they stem from one thing, and that thing you can call it distortion. I call them distortions, and the heart distortion, and it feels like some angst. And I explained before, 4 elements: pain, pressure, poison, and air, confusion. Okay? Fire, earth, water, and air. Those 4 elements. The Christ is when those all 4 elements are calibrated in the 5th element, which is Christ. It's in the cross. And that happens at the heart level when you place your attention on that thing that is uncomfortable in your heart. Anybody can do this. And every time there was the angst inside of you that was creating a motive, belief system, in order to pacify itself. So there's no angst, and so it's looking for the external means to do this. What is it doing? So there's no cross inside. There's no Christ. There's just distortion. And it's trying to get that energy to connect the dots externally, not internally. And so when you have the emptiness inside, or distortions, and this and that from the outside, that is Antichrist. The Antichrist is like a symbol of plus, but all these little sticks are disconnected. The emptiness inside the heart. And so, as you can see, there's limits of how far you can go. You can never get to the bliss of God. You can never get to the peace of God, because you can't. Because in order to do that, you have to internally destroy those distortions, which are what the archons are, and you turn them into eons, and you do that through your attention and awareness. So that is the way to live from the soul. And then this way you live with Christ, so to speak. Okay, I'm just describing to you exactly what's going on without making this some concept nonsense. It's like, oh, the Christ is going to save you, the Jesus is going to save you. No. Wrong. The only way you can get your ass out of this game is if you finally stop doing this nonsense, bullshit, Antichrist nonsense, by trying to alleviate that discomfort inside of you through external means and getting out of that loop. Because you can call it the person who is the best, or pristine and precise alchemist carries the energy of the Christ, because there's this peace, bliss that is inside that person for no reason whatsoever, besides that the work has been done. And there are people like that. And it's not like they, just happen overnight, not for everybody, but some people did. But I can guarantee you that they have been working in the past lives, possibly, but there is this work to be done, and that is alchemy and devotion, as I mentioned in the previous video. Again, it's not something like, oh, what is alchemy? No, it's just place your attention exactly where there's the discomfort coming from to create that motive. Anything done out of motive builds up the Antichrist energy, the dark passion, the false light, as people call it. And how it looks like? It looks like success in the matrix. That's how it looks like. It looks like success in the matrix. And almost successful people in the matrix point the finger at it. That's an Antichrist. They're carrying the Antichrist energy. And what happens when the Christ meets the Antichrist? It's a good question. Because I've asked the question, if alchemy is this, if alchemy is connecting those four elements in your heart, which are distortions, into one coherent field, which feels peaceful and blissful in your heart, and then there's no motive anymore, and the only action that you take is through the inspiration, and with inspiration it's spirit in motion, it's ether, you have the spirit, which is peace, bliss, that you've alchemized, and it starts evaporating and creating these states of consciousness, and it's turning into the ether, and that's positive emotion, you may say. It's electromagnetic wave in motion, moving through your body, and as it's moving, out of that the picture may come, and then there's this real passion and excitement about, oh, do this, and then you take action. It's through the inspiration and not motivation. You see, people who embark on the motivation pathway and become really, really good at it, they become the Antichrist. They know that in order to get that level of bliss, which is limited, and it's never going to be the bliss of source, it's going to be sort of like a false light. What the light is bliss, and false light is this dirty bliss. Shouldn't use that same word, but like dirty passion, dark passion, or what kind of word I could use? We need a word for it, but it's not bliss. It's I don't know what you call it. Like I don't want to use the word orgasm as well, because that is also does not depict specifically that it has to be this orgasm, lust-based orgasm, and not necessarily love-based orgasm, which is very different. So I don't want to say that it's an orgasm either, but it is a type of falsely and artificially created light. We need a word for it. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe throughout this video, as I'm talking, that word will come to me. But at this point, I just wanted to show you that false bliss. And it's usually, it looks like, it looks like a man engaging into this, or even a woman. It always has to engage in some sort of deceit, first of all. A abomination of the sacred principle. There's all sorts of love triangles there. Everything that is not how supposed to be holistically in the matrix, everything has to be messed up. So whatever it has to be done to create a dark passion, and so all these sacrifices that they do and everything to create that dark passion, because that's the energy that sustains that distortion. Okay, it is there's no illumination inside The person does not feel love and bliss. They don't know what this is. And the most that they can get is to this lust based orgasm. That's the most that they can get. They don't know what love is. This is why sometimes people like a love-hate relationship. That's not love. That's lust and hate relationship. They don't yet know what love is. They cannot be in that state of consciousness. They are in the Antichrist energy. Now you can see the number of people that are in this predicament, what I'm describing. Look at every single person and you'll see. Even if the person is super intellectually gifted, but is trying to leave this planet rather than, out of fear. Motive is like, oh, this planet is going to be fucked. Let's run from it. Okay, well, that's a motive. You're doing it out of fear, and everything that you do, don't care that your intentions are well, is just not going to be it. Maybe no one's going to let you out of this planet before you fix your own home. Then you can travel. No one is going to let you out of this mess. You cannot run from it. You got to stay here and deal with it and find the answer. And this is the answer that I'm talking about. Is placing your attention from the source of discomfort and started living from the heart. It has tremendous effect on your reality. There has nothing has more value in your life than your internal peace and bliss that is acquired not through the external means, but just purely alchemical and devotional, process. It's a calibration. It's a balancing act, but it's absolutely not what everybody or a lot of people are teaching in the spirituality. Raise your Kundalini. This is exactly, if you're really successful in raising your Kundalini and controlling that energy, you are the Antichrist. Do you understand? You can manifest things and be very successful in the matrix, but like I said, you're going to be the king or a queen of pile of shit, because matrix is based on shit, on the coal. There's not inside. There's still going to be crap. So that's what happens to the people who are trying to, without eroding their ego, moving into the spiritual success. All these gurus, all these teachers, they all smell. I don't know if you can. I mean, if you do the alchemy, you'll, in the contrast of your energy with their energy, you're gonna start seeing the contrast and start feeling that following the Antichrist path. And talking that if they are, there were a few figures that came out to be in this lust-based love, lust triangles and whatnot, and portraying themselves like as somebody who, enlightened or super aware. And then anyway, you see what happens to them. Oh, look, the Antichrist is crumbling. Okay, it's crumbling because the false energy can never touch the center. First of all, electromagnetically is impossible. And second of all, there's a limit of how far it can go, how close to that bliss can get to, and it cannot go any further. And once you get to that point, there is destruction of everything that happens. This is why you see there's a destruction happening right now with anybody who's still functioning on that trajectory and do not, do that thing, and you can obviously detect their energy based on the level of peace that they have internally without any kind of drugs, without any kind of external conditions. Okay, so then I hope that I described that what is Christ energy and what is Antichrist energy and what is light. The Christ light is pure, pristine, crispy bliss energy, and the Antichrist light is this dirty kind of light that is what we call false light, but it also has a limited power for the manifestation because it is still light, and light is just like an ink of creation. It's power, but it's limited power. It gets to a certain point and it cannot go any further. And like I said, what happens when the Christ meets Antichrist? It collapses. That's what happens. It is a motion of energy inside of your heart. And you get to that infinite motion of energy inside of your heart through your attention and awareness. And I don't know what else to tell you guys. And I mean, if you want to call, there's no need to this because it's an energy and it's a state of consciousness. If a person is in a state of consciousness of this dark passion, that is Antichrist. Like people like P. Diddy, when they were doing all sorts of, look, it can look as a ritual, as a sacrifice ritual, as a sexual ritual, as like, they're all types of rituals, dark rituals, to create that dark passion. And when you have that dark passion, you have a power of creating your reality that is limited in the matrix. But you're always going to be successful only in the matrix. You're never going to enter the world of holistics. You're never going to know what love is. You're never going to know what true light is. You're always going to be limited. And like I said, it's okay to try by yourself once. I always say that don't believe anybody. If you want to see what it's like, look, right now in this case, of course it's too late. It's bad advice. But if you ever catch yourself in trying to accumulate that type of dark light energy, and power in order to dominate others and and all that nonsense and get into the matrix games and be powerful in the matrix, then you know what it takes, and then you know that lust-based passion is how you do it, how you gain that power. And this is why you have all these situations that are related, everything's related to subduing innocence and sexual rituals and whatever, right? That's how these men used to get power. Now I'm going to say something. There's certain political figures, they used to be on a dark path. Some are no longer there. Some are let go of the ego. They went through this ego death internally, not because of any drugs or whatever, just internally through their own means. And now they're not that. They may have done this really messed up thing in the past, but they're not that at this moment. Does that make sense? Now, this myth that Christ energy is weak and then it can be sort of pushed around. I'll tell you what. At the beginning, the dark energy, the dark passion way is stronger because it's immediate, it's fast, you can do it, and if you know what you're doing, it gets you the power in the matrix. But it has a limit, an expiration date, and a catastrophic destruction. But you can have the power right now, like right away. With the Christ energy, it's not like that. This is what all these stories in the Bible about Jesus being born and being protected by 3 kings and whatnot, and very vulnerable, in a very vulnerable position. This is what happens when you start alchemizing the energies. You're very vulnerable, in a vulnerable position. You're completely unprotected. Before that light starts coming through you, you have no protection. It takes time for the light to start coming through you and start circulating. You have no protection. So you're super weak. And so in that moment, that energy, when it is being born, it has to be protected. You can't just fuck around and act like you're powerful when you have no power in that beginning. You have no power. But when the power starts growing, it's growing and growing and growing, and it has no limits. And at some point, it overtakes the dark energy. And so whenever that little, the true light energy is grown to the point of stability, then that is unfuckable with. You cannot fuck with anymore with your fruity ass little, dark magic. But it's very weak at the beginning. It's true, it is very weak. But how it looks like? It looks like a heavily protected neutrality. You take a position in a society as well, a neutral position, but very heavily protected. And holistic society is based on this principle of neutrality. But there is a protection, powerful protection, against the matrix threats. It is not weak. It's very powerful, but it has to grow from within. It's like planting the seed, and it takes time. First of all, it roots into the spirit world, and then, only then, at the very, very end, you see how much power there was, but it wasn't visible. You see? And this is what breaks this myth that Christ energy is like hippies and push around teddy bears. It's not like that at all. But if the matrix doesn't kill the baby and the baby develops into an adult Christ energy, it's over. And that's what's happening right now. It's over for the matrix. And I wouldn't say this if it wouldn't be the truth, because sometimes people say before it's like, it's over. And it's like, no, it's not over, because I can feel it. And you have to go through the 4 deluges of water, fire, air, and earth. And once they're all completed, once you go through all of them, then you can say that it's over. Now, it's going to take time outside, but what's going to happen is that governments are going to be forced to change into protectorates. Government's going to shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink until the only thing that's left is their role in protecting the societies from any kind of threats, but not fucking around with with own people and and playing those matrix games. The role is going to be as a protectorate. You protect the inside and you let everything happen naturally without intervention. And everything has to be from the ground up, from the local little town. They have to be sustainable. Every household has to be sustainable, ideally. Then the neighborhood can be sustainable, and the little town can be sustainable. Because that's what's going to happen. Why? Because no one's going to get the money or anything from the tyrannical father. There's no cash coming in. There's nothing. People are going to have to figure out of how they can now live independently, without the government. Figuring it out from the ground up. So this is what's going to happen, whether you like it or not. It's just going to happen because there won't be government. That's what people are going to have to figure out. At first, of course, there's going to be a phase where people are losing their shit because now their source of money is being cut off, or source of energy is being cut off. They don't know what to do. But eventually, some people are going to not lose their heads and engage into farming, surviving, thriving in their own, little place. Also, having guns just in case, because you can't let anybody just come into your place. You have to protect yourself. And there's going to be growth in the country type of lifestyle. And if anybody kind of crosses your line, the law will protect you. If you, for example, here in Mexico, it's legal to have a gun to protect your land, and any invasion can be defended against. And so you have to have that, because you're going to work really hard to grow your food and have the harmony of everything. If you can't protect this, then you have to have that at this level of protection. And on a statewide and a countrywide, there's going to be other level of protection, but the protection is always going to against the corruption, not fueling the corruption. You see, military always has to be against the corruption and not fueling the corruption, which was taking place in the whole in the world. So that's the transition that's taking place right now. It's going to take time, but you can observe that when you cut out the energy supply to your ego, and it's like you no longer pacify with those pleasures, it starts shrinking and dying. And this is what you want in order to alchemize the energies into that peace and bliss that you've always been looking for. And that's how it is done. And when you do it, and I do it, and other people do this internally, the energy is cut off to the matrix. And when the energy is cut off to the matrix outside, you can see the matrix begins to crumble because the energy is being cut off. And it looks like the money supply has been cut off to the corrupt individuals. They no longer can sustain their pleasures. They go through like cathartic process. Their ego is dying. And to be honest, the biggest and most secret desire of the ego is to die. And this is what's going on. Okay? And it's done through the energy. It's done through the energy. And it's not done, through the violence, which is, of course, just gets you into the same trouble as always. I've been tempted, I've been tempted to go into this, but I did not do it. And yes, your mind will try to convince you, like, but there's no power here, there's no power here. But if you trust it, and you trust that your state of consciousness affects the entire reality, then you cater your state of consciousness first, and you don't do it through external means. You do it through attention and awareness. It's not about accumulating information. And then you can become a sovereign individual. And the more sovereign individuals there are, the more energy is flowing in the right direction and the less in the wrong direction, and everything around you starts collapsing in the matrix and growing in the holistics, from the caterpillar to the butterfly. You see? Because Antichrist is doing the opposite. He's looking for these weak souls and try to corrupt them. You see, and if you give in to these and you don't get the point of the alchemy, you contribute the energy to the matrix. And you don't want to get tricked into this. And you don't want to tricked in the wars. No, so of course, there's going to be a physical action that's going to be taken against the corruption, and that is necessary, but it's not going to be more like like wars that never end. It's going to be very precise, very specific, cutting off of the energy supply, cutting off the money supply, cutting off all sorts of ways that it sustains that cabal, sustains that matrix, sustains all those things. That's how it's going to be done, very precisely and without escalation into the war. It's going to be, it's not going to be this nonsense that, it's going to be done very quickly. The points of energy is going to be cut off, and you say, well, how do you know that that's going to happen? You have like a lot of faith that that's how the reality is going to go. It's not a hopeful thing. It's like, well, I hope it's going to happen. No. It's going to happen based on the state of consciousness that I am and the people around me. If I feel that the energy is way off, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that, like, well, that's the trajectory of the reality. But when I feel it, I'll tell you that it is. Like, this is why I couldn't say this, like, a few months ago. But now I can. Because we have indeed went through the critical point. The critical point has been passed. It's not to say that you don't have to, take care of your attention and awareness and find the balance between those four, the misaligned state of consciousness in your heart. You still have to do that, but it's going to be increasingly easier and easier to do, to maintain the peace and bliss in your state of mind, in consciousness or heart. And if you are in that state, that's how the reality is moving on that trajectory. Things may try to take you out of it, but if you align it, you don't give in to your lust drives, you engage into the upper drives, the what I would call like love-based drive, inspirations, and you move there and you put your energy there, because your energy has to flow somewhere, and if you flow there, and it's no longer flowing to pacify the lust, because you don't need it, because there's no distortion inside of you anymore, so there's no need to engage there. So any disbalance that comes along, you balance it out. Then as long as you keep in that, what people call Christ energy, in that cross, in the balance between those four elements in your heart, things are going to be going the way I'm describing them to go. As long as that's the case. And everything else is noise. This is why your attention is not supposed to be on the noise, but you're supposed to be on, like, again, I'm not saying this like, there's nothing to do with asceticism. It's actually very deeply engaged into enjoyment of life, but no longer for pleasure. But enjoyment, again, is different, because if you have a motive, you want to get that pleasure to alleviate that feeling bad. But if you don't have that anymore, you do it out of inspiration, and then you just do it out of moving the energy, because moving that energy, that blissful energy, feels good for your soul. So that's why you have to keep on moving it and creating something and playing and whatever, and that's the most that you can do with it. And that's very deeply enjoying. And that could be, eating the food and, just enjoying life, creating and playing. That's pretty much what it is then. Okay. And sometimes people think that there's going to be Christ, one single person, or Antichrist, one single person. Who is that? It's not a single person. You can say that the person who's yielding the most dark passion is Antichrist, and you can say that the person yielding the most this bliss energy, or the light passion, the passion of the Christ, as they call it, then that's the Christ, the Antichrist, and the Christ. I mean, I don't think that's any value in measuring life like that. I think your own life is what matters. It's like, are you in the energy of the Christ or the energy of Antichrist? That's what matters. Now, we are entering the Renaissance. It's not the AI bullshit that's going on. AI is the last thing that's going to change, but it's also going to be released from this false light bullshit nonsense. Because now people using AI to get off, which is the dark passion. Okay. At the same time, there's going to be renaissance, the butterfly cells multiplying. There's going to be dying off of the caterpillar cells, and there's going to be people who have like way stubborn egos, and the ego is going to die one way or another. If you don't let the ego die while still your body is alive, then universe is going to take you through the experience of dying in your body in order for you to let go of your ego. It's going to do whatever it takes. So some, they're going to have to die physically in order to experience the ego death. Some people won't, and they will turn from caterpillar into the butterfly. And so this is what you'll see going on. People who are not making it and just going and dying. People who are experiencing this almost forced ego death, not through any psychedelics, not through anything, but through just sheer change in energies, and them giving up on, or not even giving up, that little thing that they used to do that used to get them off no longer working. And so they're forced then to face their ego and dissolve. And then there are people who are voluntarily trailblazing this thing and don't allow any accumulation of the ego. So, and it's going to manifest in different ways in the world. And you'll see that catastrophic things that you think like, oh my God, the world is crazy. No, this is just like a small section of caterpillar cells dying off. Then you'll see people transforming and changing and see like, oh, that person used to be this, but look at this, I used to, and now it's like that. So I can't even recognize, it's just like a different people. They just like change, and they change in the way they look and everything. And I'm like, huh. And then there's going to be people who have always been pushing forward, and they figured that out years ago already. This is why, like, when I'm talking and speaking this, I'm saying exactly what happened in my life. This is why I'm not hiding the fact that I was under the spell of the vampire, or like bitten by the vampire, if you will. For the brief moment of my life, I really thought that is the way how to gain power in life. But then I very quickly realized that, oh, that is how you have power in the matrix, but not in the world. And then I went through the destruction of everything that I've built, because everything was based on the belief system and stuff like that. I went through the destruction of that. And so I was a bit of a piece of shit in one point in my life, not knowing that I am, just by gullibly thinking that that's what power is. But then I realized that no, that's not what power is. And I started seeing in other people, and questioning and saying like, what's going on? This person is claiming to be this and is doing spirituality or whatever the fucking nonsense, and then you hang out with that person, and it's like, what the fuck? This is just like empty. Where is the heart? There's something about it. To me, it's like, can it be that everybody in the spirituality are just fucking vampires? And once I realized that, I was like, holy fuck, that's just still the same matrix, and everybody is just playing. And the only person who really pointed at the right place is Jiddu Krishnamurti. Not that he pointed, it's just that I just happened to find his videos at the same time that I was going through it. And then I realized, fuck, this guy lives directly. I said, I don't want, Eckhart Tolle, also another person. But he's like, playing around too much with the Matrix people, and he's not being, he's very soft, about it. But you need everybody, all sorts of people like that. But you can't deny that a man is free. And sure enough, if you look at not even what Jiddu Krishnamurti was saying, but what he was going through it, you'll see that he went through the very powerful chemical processes. He was an alchemist. And what he was talking about is alchemy. He was saying, just like, hey, hold your suffering as a jewel. They said, look at it. And people sometimes talk to him, and he knows that he's talking from the belief system, and it says like, no, you're just regurgitating the information. This is why you watch him. It's like, why he's getting so frustrated, because he feels everybody's energy. When they say the word, he knows that they just pull it out of their butt, and they did not look at it. And he didn't want them to keep on traversing around. He wanted them to go and face that distortion and then alchemize it and have that internal transition that happens naturally upon placing your attention on the right point in your consciousness, without games and everything. This is why I said, like, for example, even if you get fascinated with the astral projections and like, oh, you know, like all these fancy ass shit, but you still have not dealt with your heart, all these skills that you're going to learn, and you know, these, they of course going to be dark skills, but you don't know that that's what it is. And you need this because you need to somehow sustain those distortions. So you still have ego there, but now you have all these skills, you know, siddhis, as they call it, but they're not really siddhis. They're just, you know. So that's why you don't learn from that way either. You don't go into the astral world and trying to figure out. This is why I'm quite against. Well, I'm not really against it. I'm just saying that not the way. It's just not the way. This is why I do not condone this. If a person has still distortions, and if you don't teach them to put attention, anybody can do it, by the way. If you don't teach them to put attention on the source of their discomfort, and if they don't do this, because if they do this, everything else starts coming online, and this naturally psychedelic states of consciousness, as necessary when it's necessary, spiritual experiences in the mind comes in as necessary when it's necessary, and they are beautiful, and everything happens from inside out. It has to be built from that logos energy. Everything has to be built from there, not from somebody who told you, you know, from the outside. You have to grow from the inside out. This is why everything that I used to learn about, like, you know, the astral worlds, gone. And now everything is being built new from the inside out. And I'm not pushing it. I'm not insisting something that has to happen, because I don't really need it. But if anything is going on, it's going to have to happen from these coherent states of consciousness. And if that happens from there, I can trust that I can take it to the bank, colloquially speaking. First is your heart. Until your heart is coherent, don't fuck around. Don't get impressed with anything. Don't be this, you know, jackass, Kool-Aid drinking jackass. You know, just don't be that guy. Or I should say, you know, if you catch yourself there, get the fuck out. Once is enough to see that that's not the way. You gotta see for yourself, of course. But if you see it for yourself, and you have any doubts, like, well, maybe there's some value there. No, there's no. Go get the fuck out of there. All of it. Just dump all of it. And then you'll find inside, like, what you really like to do. You're going to do that thing. And the abundance is going to come from inside out as well. You see? If you're still dark inside, everything that you're going to do, it's just going to work in the wrong ways, you know. Good means work in the wrong way, you know. If the wrong man is doing it, it's who you are. It's not what you do. And that's the difference between Christ and Antichrist. So what you want to do? What you want to be? Do you want to be success in the matrix? Which leads to catastrophic collapse of everything that you gain, or do you want to be free? And be the king of your own household. That's how the real king should rule. Just rules what is your family. And you can be the king of your family if you're a man, or a queen of your family if you're a woman. And if every single family is like that, then you don't need anybody to run the world. The principle of logos runs the world. This is why your brain does not operate in a way that like there is one central dominant cell that runs everything else. It just happens and it works. It's organizing principle. And this is why you have to cater this organizing principle, and everything's going to fall into place. And yes, the future society is that of kings, for sure, and queens, for sure. But kings and queens they're not gonna look like a Matrix kings and queens. These are the dark ones. They're going to be super responsible about the people that they're responsible about. Whether it's 5 people, whether it's 10 people, and by the way, no more than 144 people per kingdom. Because this is the number of souls that you can have in your family, living in harmony. That's the unit. So there. This is why the future is going to be highly evolved technologically. The villages that are highly evolved technologically. This is what's going. This is like, of course, I'm talking about like an avatar world or something like that, but this is it. This is how the holistics looks like. And cities and big corporations. These are just mechanical industries to produce the machines and stuff like that. And sure, it's necessary, but it's not to live and enjoy life. There's nothing there for the soul. There's something there for the engineering mind to create something there in order to make your life much cooler, which is where the life is actually going on. It's like becomes like a tool. So that's what the city. I'm trying to say this is how the city really looks like. It's just like a big industrial hardware producing, technology producing organization. That kind of what's left out of the ego is skills and habits. Okay, guys, just summarized everything again. Hopefully it makes sense. And honestly, like if you're listening to this and you're doing this and you're not trapped in the matrix, then that's enough. I don't know what else I can do, And honestly, like the information there, like you can listen to Krishnamurti, and if you needed to be pointed at somewhere, where your attention needs to be. And if you really need to have a logical conclusion, right? If you're very intellectual, through rational reasoning, you can, which is called jnana, is a type of way of debunking all your belief systems and realizing that no permutation in your mind can possibly touch you with this infinite. And whenever that dissolves, there's this falling through the cracks into the infinite. And that's what jnana does. It's ultimate rational reasoning. This is the most beautiful mind that you can just. The most beautiful logic is when the logic makes a conclusion that is powerless into creating the states of consciousness that it's looking for. And that's the most beautiful mind. And it just realizes and says, oh, and let's go. That's jnana in essence. And if you're very intellectual, jnana will take you there. The real jnana, not just learning belief systems, but looking at it, observing it. It's not analysis, because analysis is just working with the beliefs. Analysis is something that should be done on a physical world, and you cannot do it with beliefs because it's not going to do it. But when it's turning upon itself, the intellect has to be so sharp that it can sort of dissect. Sometimes people call it neti. This is what the mind does. It's like, okay, not this, not this, not this, not this, not this, not this, and this, and then it realizes like, oh, I am the process, and then just shuts down that process. Now that is the sharpest mind. This is the mind that I'm impressed with. This is intellect that touches the intelligence. And it knows that it's a tool. It never leads. It always follows, logics always follows the logos. Erotics always follows the eros. Peace! And I'll see you in the next one.